splits off wood. Now, one of the things that, as I read in the instructions, was to either use the rough and gouge to smooth, and I've done a pretty good job here. It's not real smooth, but one of the other things that it mentions in our handbook is using a skew chisel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise my tool rest. It needs to be at or above center for using a skew chisel. And then I'm going to run, this is a 1/2 inch skew. I want to run in the bottom third of my skew angle. So what we have here is a skew chisel. We have the angle, this is 90 degrees, my finger to the steel of the tool, and the angle of the grind is skewed. And then if you look at it from this way as well, it's a very shear point. Most of these are somewhere between 20 and 30 degrees on the angle. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to cut across here, and I'm going to use a plane cut with my skew chisel, and it will clear out any rough edges. Let's go this way just so you can see it there. I'm going to get on the bottom third and go across. And that's almost a finish that you wouldn't have to start sanding, maybe 180, 200 grit sandpaper. And who likes to sand? So with the skew chisel, we have several cutting edges. We have this cutting edge, obviously, that we can cut with. We can cut with either one of these sides on both sides. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we have the 2 points. So there's 6 and 7 of this tool. It's probably one of the longest learning curves of any of the tools in the toolbox when we're talking about wood turning tools. But as you can see, it does a really good job for doing like this. If you're doing a bunch of pins or something, and you can put this kind of finish on there before you start sanding. Plus, coming off of if you use this and come off of the bushings on the pins, you will get a straight, true edge right there with your bushing on both sides. And we'll get to that in a few weeks when we get to our pin turning class. But for right now, I've got, should have at least 5 inches. The book says 5 inches, not quite. So I need a little bit more. So I can use this short edge of the skew chisel to go and it catches. All right, so we need to do some marking. On this, we're going to do 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches for our the honey dipper. Since the book says 1.25 inches, I'm going to go ahead and go mark it 1.25 inches, and then we want 5 inches, and then 3/4 of an inch down here on this end. Basically what we're doing here, let's see here, in 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch here at the end of the bulb tube. So basically what we're doing is we're laying out the business of our honey dipper and how we want to, where we want to go. We need a little bit of direction. We can't just go off and cut. So I want the bulb end on the drive end of my lathe. I want the handle end and the small end to be towards the tailstock. And we're going to, this will be the last portion that we will part off the lathe. We're going to run this between centers. That's what the book says, so we're going to run it between centers. It talks about giving a little bit of relief so that you kind of start and you have your areas marked. It says use a thin parting tool to do that, so I've got the thin parting tool for that. I'm going to mark my end. I'm going to mark the see that mark. And I got the tool rest too high and where I did skew chisel, so let's go back down. Alright, so now we're laid out. And what we're going to do here is we're going to do a bead across right here in this 1/2 inch section. Down here on the end, we're going to do an oval or a egg shape. We've got a handle and an area for our fingers. Let's go to our close. Alright, so rolling a bead again. I'm going to take my tool. I'm going to get out here about the area that I want. I'm starting with the handle down, the point up, and I'm going to start to roll it and draw it up. And cut to the center. So I've got a start of a bead there. I'm going to go ahead and cut. Some waste away because I know that I'm not going to make my decorative bead as big as my bulb bead. And since we're round, we can speed up a little bit. As I roll my tool, I want to follow that cut all the way to the corner. What I'm doing here is wasting away some excess wood. I don't want to go back to the roughing gouge, so what I'm doing is I'm using my spindle gouge along the bevel to waste away the wood. This area right here with the handle is where we can get creative, where we can do different things. Or we can just make a practice cut. Every cut we make is a practice cut. Until we make the finished cut. And if it's not quite the finished cut we like, then we make another pass. Hopefully we still got the wood. A lot of times what I see when we're trying to use a spindle gouge to remove wood, anything not a roughing gouge, is people that want to come in here and just cut this way with the tool, right on the point. If I do that, I can do that. But what happens is, I've got a sawtooth, even though it's very small, I've got a 3/8 gouge, and the sawtooth is small here, and I can sand that off. It's a edge that I'm not looking for. I prefer something like this that's somewhat finished so that I don't have to sand it starting at 80 grit sandpaper. So what we do to eliminate that is we go with the bevel, and we use part of our wing. We don't have to use, we're not using a whole lot of it. We just want to put right off here, either just off to the point on one side or the other, depending on which way you're going. If I'm going to the left, I'm going to be on the left wing. If I'm going to the right, I'm going to be on the right wing. But I'm going to use the edge and the wing because the wing cuts away the peels away rather than scrape away. Just making little passes there so that I can waste away wood, and I can just go across there and knock them out. Being a little more careful here because that's my finished bead right there. Now for the last cuts we did last Thursday was a cove. What I'm doing there was just wasting away some wood, staying on the tool rest for the sake of time on our video. I'm not going to move it. What I did there was just start a little bulb around on the top, and I can kind of start that down here on this bottom side. Just ever so slightly and get the look that I want. Now before I get too far on here, I want to lay out the honey dipper. Now we can get the tape measure and we can measure it out. I'm going to go with the center, and then I'm going to put one out here on my out edge. And then I'm going to put one between them. And I'm going to see how it looks between these marks when I use the parting tool. What we're going for here is we want to make a parting tool cut into our wood like this so that the shaft in the center is equidistance or equal thickness across here when we look. And we can tell that from the back side of what we're looking at. When I cut into here, I can see where my cut is going on the back side. Okay, so what I have is probably a little more than a 1/4 inch on both of those with my 1/16. I'm going to go ahead and make another pass between. Okay, those look pretty close to the same. I'm not worried about the rough edges on here. I do want to smooth those up before I finish it and before we go stick it in a jar of honey. But what I do know is I'm gonna sand this before I finish it. So I'm not worried about the edges. We're worried about making our cuts. And on our parting tools, what I want to do is I want to follow my cut to the center. I'm pushing in and rolling the tool. This cutting edge, I want it on the bevel before I make a cut. Even with the parting tool, we follow the bevel, and then as we follow it, the motion of that cut goes this way. All right, I'm gonna actually use my Skew Chisel here and clean this up just a little bit.
We're at 24 minutes.
24 minutes. Don't try to do a Skew Chisel below center. what I can do with the Skew Chisel is get very delicate with the cut. Now, in order to do the back side and get this prepared to part it off, I will again waste away and there we have a honey dipper. And now what I would do is sand that down and start to finish. To apply coats of finish it right before. You're gonna have, you wanna cut this down to probably 1/4 inch. I know the book says 1/8 of an inch. When we're starting out with the possibilities of catches high, I would recommend at least 1/4 inch. Or like this, I've left that at 1/2 inch. It's nearly as thick as the business end of my honey dipper. And all that does is helps us to learn. So I'm gonna call that good for honey dipper. I would sand this off and put finish on it. Several coats of either tung oil or the book says tung oil or walnut oil, and both of those are food safe finishes. They would soak into this wood and it would be seal up nicely. So happy turning, guys.